Hello and welcome to Sounding Board, a community access television production of Soroptimist International of Novato. My name is Madeline Peters and I'm the host today with our guest, Linda Witong, who really, with her vast experience as a scholar and as a researcher connected to Soroptimist International and presenting at the UN, is creating the context for understand that we welcome you to the water diaspora. Linda, thank you again for being here and taking the time. Thank you also for the tremendous high level of your research and your willingness to come and help educate our local community.
Yeah.
So, again, this program is yours. This is a chance for you to take your message that you've shared in many different venues and create a context so that our local people can begin to understand the magnitude of this situation.
Yeah, and I know we both thank Soroptimist International and Marit.
Marit Verhoff-Cohen.
Yeah, our president of Soroptimist International and president of Women for Water. She's taught both of us. I think she's, as we said before, she's converted us into understanding the magnitude of this issue. And so whenever I'm speaking, I like to give credit to my mentors. And Soroptimist International are definitely two of them. Anyway, what I wanted to focus on now is displacement and migration.
So this is, again, we're talking about the human flow. We're talking about the displacement of people again, and this is a local, a national, and international situation.
It is, but I wanted to give a couple of global examples because it's at that point you see the magnitude of what you're dealing with. Syria. You know, when we think about Syria, we think, well, they must have been fighting over something, but maybe unclear about what the conflict was about. Well, there was a study, the March 2015 edition of the Proceedings of the National Academy of Scientists said the extreme drought in the country of Syria from 2006 to 2011 led to increased poverty and relocation to urban areas.
Well, I don't think people understand that. Is that you have these people in various parts of the community, these countries, remote access. They don't have to access to water.
No.
They have to move.
They do, because they, very often they can't turn on the tap, and maybe even if they can turn on the tap, there's no guarantee that there's going to be water or that's not going to be contaminated.
And people cannot survive.
Water's life.
Yeah, so that's it. So then, but understanding the whole concept of migration, the dynamic and the importance of it being linked to water, that was new for me too.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you bringing it up and elaborating on it.
Well, according to the study, they agreed. They said that the political instability that was caused by that is now widely acknowledged to have fueled the current conflict. So when you're looking and you're going and seeing what's happening in Syria now, you're going, all this started with a drought. With water.
Right.
All this started with a drought. Right. And as a result of that, according to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, in October of 2016, at least 6.5 million people were displaced in Syria, and more than 4 million had to flee to neighboring countries, who, by the way, now are having their own water crisis.
So the countries that were the...
It's a domino effect.
Right. So it has exacerbated the water problem, not just in Syria, but in the countries
Jordan.
who received the...
for example.
People who left.
It's
so we see a crisis on the move. It's escalating and it's on the move.
It is on the move, and it unfortunately is showing no signs of stopping. And now you have Cape Town, which may end up being a place where people will have to move because there's not sufficient water. So again, you start the domino effect.
It's amazing because certainly just knowing through visits to Cape Town what a beautiful city that is, and the biodiversity there, and the seat of the wine country, and realizing that access to water is really completely changed everything. And
in such fast order too. There's another thing about water that's happening, and there's extreme weather events which water affects and is affected by. And what's happening is you're having a lot of disasters, storms, more than normal. And this was really interesting to discover. 10 of the natural disasters that caused the most deaths in the first half of 2017, 8 of them were floods or landslides, which were water related. It gets better. Storms and other weather-related hazards were also the leading cause of displacement, with the latest data showing 76% of 31.1 million people, 76% folks, were displaced during 2016 and were forced from their homes as a result of weather-related events. It all goes around to water. And I think it's very important for people to understand that it's not just a drought, it can be flooding. It's not just water itself, it's everything interrelated to water.
Well, and I think that the change in weather patterns, the predictors now are that those what we're talking about as extreme weather patterns are really not one-offs.
No.
That we have to anticipate the fact that this is the new normal.
And that actually was what one of the esteemed scholars said. They said, folks, this is the new normal. Don't get too comfortable. We survived this, maybe, this drought. Don't get too comfortable. It could happen again and happen much sooner and with much more extreme, shall we say, results. So.
Very sobering.
Yeah, it is. It is. So that's what I have to say about that.
Okay, well, again, so one of the things that I want to kind of tie back into is that when you're talking about this displacement, who are the people that are the most vulnerable?
Very often, again, it will be the poor, the impoverished, the people that live in rural areas that were perhaps at best just eking out a living to begin with, that do not have access to the type of water that we have through our, utilities and so forth and so on. They may lose their farming, they may lose their plants, their livelihood, their cows may die, other animals may die. If their plants aren't growing because there isn't any water, or they become like a desert, you're moving. And if you can't have water to, supplement your family and yourself, you're moving, and you'll move to where there still is water. And so many of them, and again, unfortunately, women and girls and families with small children are moving.
Are those, again, the vulnerable populations?
Yeah.
So, and I think it's really important to emphasize the fact that through our affiliation with Soroptimist International, that's advancing the status of women and girls, and we're looking globally, and that the crisis, the water crisis, there's interlinkages. I think Marie did a very good job of presenting it in a very comprehensible way. Poverty, women, access to water.
It's all tied together. But another thing that women very often, and even young girls, are left with is perhaps the male head of the family, because many of these are still like patriarchal in basis, and they're leaving for a job. And so they leave the woman with the children to be in charge of whatever's left.
Well, and
so they'll be basically eking out a living until they can't.
And then that brings in a whole other set of conflicts too, in that if the man does leave the family unit, then is that considered a family, because policies are different depending on where you are globally.
Right.
And then what protections, what access to services do the remaining family members have?
Well, the UN is working on that. The motto, and they're trying to live to that, is leave no one behind. And that includes the vulnerable, the impoverished, the poor that are out in the rural area, or maybe just hanging on by a thread in the urban area. Everybody deserves a human right of water, food, housing, a minimum social protection to have what they have a right to enjoy, which is a good life for them and their family, an opportunity to have even a better life.
Well, Linda, I really appreciate your bringing the wealth of your experience, your phenomenal research skills, your ability to make this all very comprehensive.
It's like I have a bunch of little file cabinets in there.
I guess you do.
I'm looking in, opening up, okay, this topic, this, yeah.
But just in the past too, you've done programs with us on child brides and really kind of helping us be very realistic. These are not situations that are affecting people in other countries. These are all situations that affect us in our backyard. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'll have to have a conversation with you about seeing if I can get you back for further programs.
Okay.
So again, this is my name is Madeline Peters. My guest today has been Linda Witong, and she's really exposed us to this the craziness of the impact of migration on climate change and what is happening in this water diaspora. Thank you very much.